to the 2020 Annual Veterans Day program. My name is Amy Cochran and I'm the principal at Fridley Middle School. Thank you for joining us today. The Annual Veterans Day program has been a historical event at Fridley Middle School, an event that we look forward to hosting each year for our students and our community members. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, we are unable to do so in person this year. Despite these circumstances, we still wanted to take time to honor the sacrifices that have been made. On behalf of Fridley Public Schools, we wanted to take time to thank our service members, both past and present, for their sacrifices to our country. During this virtual ceremony, you will see students presenting a veteran in their life through an essay, the Star-Spangled Banner, taps, and the Pledge of Allegiance performed by both students and staff at Fridley Middle School. A special thank you to Blair Berger, our Fridley Middle School band director, for taking time to put this ceremony together. We hope that you enjoy the video, and we look forward to being able to host this event again in person in the near future. Thank you and enjoy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
George Sampson was born in Buffalo, New York, on September 24th, 1917, and served in the 171st Field Artillery Battalion. He also served in the 45th Infantry Division during World War II. George was, as he put it, I sorta got drafted incognito. George was drafted after the attack on Pearl Harbor into the battery. George fought all across the European theater, Sicily, Italy, France, and Germany. Some things that I found to be interesting is how lucky George was. On multiple occasions, he almost died, but he didn't, either because of an enemy soldier with bad aim or an explosive device that had malfunctioned. Another interesting fact was that while training, they had to walk upwards of 15 miles every day, on top of their regular training. George was wounded twice in action. George was awarded 2 Purple Hearts, and by war's end, In 1945, he had achieved the rank of major. George died at 102 years old and only 3 weeks after sharing his story. I feel that I respect George because even though he went through so much, he was still able to be thankful and still think about the good that happened and not just focus on all of the bad. After hearing George's story, I have gained a newfound respect towards any and all veterans.
Vincent Cornelius went into the Army 1914 to 1918. The location that he served in were Camp Dodge, Ohio, Camp Travis in Texas, France, and Germany. He ranked corporal. The reason why Vincent joined the Army was because of his father. When he joined the Army, there were lots of men dressed up in the same uniform, and they were also assigned specific numbers. And the reason why they were assigned those numbers was so that they can be excused for lunch, breakfast, and dinner. They didn't really have much freedom to do what they wanted. On some nights, they would have to stay in a line and run back and forth. Every morning, they would march in one line. While he was there, he traveled to so many different places, and along the way, he made some friends. While he was traveling, he had to study the culture of different places and study architect. I chose this story because I was able to realize what he had to go through every day that he was there. The first couple of days that they went to New York, they had to stay in a tent till it was time for them to leave. Once they left New York, he slowly watched the cities get smaller and smaller. The first couple of nights, the boat ride was rocky and it wasn't smooth at all. The boat ride started to get worse and worse. It was bad. Lots of men started to get sick. He felt uncomfortable because there were so many of them. The engine didn't work properly, so they had to stop and turn back. As they were driving to the closest place, he saw a rainbow glistening in the water. On Sunday, June 30th, he went to a service on the boat. He also saw lots of nurses and those sick men. When he went outside to look at the water, he saw a long line, which meant that they were getting close to their destination. As they got closer to the island, he realized that it was Ireland and started to remember everything that he read about it. They ended up getting off the boat at 10 o'clock in the morning and started to march in the streets. That story about him shows that he can go through anything and still keep going, no matter how depressing or sad it was. The reason why I chose Vincent Cornelius Reed is because he seems like the person who works hard for what they want and never gives up. I'm also one of those people. That's why I felt like we had the same hardworking personality. I also look at this person in the army differently than before because what we hear or see on TV is that they are always serious and mean when it's false information. Most of them have beautiful personalities just like us.
I respect and admire people who chose the military as their career. People who spend their holidays away from their family fighting for our country. People who are injured fighting for our rights and helping others. Those are the people the world needs more of. Without them, we probably wouldn't be this comfortable in life.
Kurt McJunkin started out in the Air Force as an E-1 Airman Basic in December 1964 and rose to an E-5 Staff Sergeant. He transferred to the Army Reserve while in college and received a direct commission to First Lieutenant when he graduated in 1976. He retired as a major in the Army Reserves in 1992. During his 2 deployments to war zones, the Vietnam War and the Desert Storm in Iraq, he was able to meet up with a family member in the Army who was also in the war zone. In March 1968, while in Vietnam, He was able to hitch a helicopter flight to an Army base where his brother Richard was deployed as a helicopter mechanic and later a pilot. When they met and got to talking, he remembered the military had a rule that only one family member had to serve in a war zone. Since his brother was in a much more dangerous position as a helicopter mechanic in an area known for enemy attacks, and had a wife and kids at home, Kurt convinced Richard he should request to return early to the U.S., which he did several weeks later. Years later, when Kurt was deployed in the Desert Storm, he met up with another brother, Larry, whose unit was deployed at the same time in Saudi Arabia, only 20 miles from his camp. One day, Kurt's driver and him decided to see if they could find Larry's unit. When they arrived where Larry was camped, the members of his unit who first met them thought Kurt was Larry since they looked so much alike and wondered why he had captain's rank on his uniform when Larry was a sergeant major. In training at Fort Bragg, North Carolina for his deployment to Desert Storm, he had to pass a physical fitness test, one part of which was a 10-mile march in full gear and carrying at least 40% of his body weight. He was glad he only weighed 150 pounds, so he only had to load his pack with about 60 pounds of sand. Still, to him it was the most difficult physical test he ever had in the military. One of the scariest events in his military service was in January 1991. While deployed to Saudi Arabia as part of Desert Storm, his 8-member team was part of a large convoy that kicked off the invasion of southwest Iraq. They spent the day before the invasion camouflaging their vehicles and making sure every vehicle was ready for a night lights-out convoy. That meant duct taping over any light source that might be accidentally turned on during the convoy across the desert and revealing their position. The only light that could be seen was a tiny red light similar to the dot a laser beam makes, and that light could only be seen from 10 to 20 feet away. Once the convoy headed out at 1 a.m., he was extremely worried about whether or not they'd be able to keep up with the vehicle in front of them as they traveled across the desert and sand dunes. There was no road, just the track of the vehicle in front of them. Not only would they be lost if they lost sight of the vehicle in front of them, but all those following them would be lost also. They only lost sight temporarily a few times, and Kurt was relieved when they reached the final destination without an incident. Kurt thinks it was an honor to serve and represent the United States for 23 years as a member of the military and to give back for all the rights and privileges we have as citizens of the U.S. Kurt McJunkin is my great-uncle, and I think he was very brave and strong for doing something different like being in the Air Force. I am glad he is my great-uncle, and I like listening to his stories. I respect him a lot, and I can't even imagine going through a desert in pitch darkness or carrying 60 pounds on my back for 10 miles. I also want to thank Kurt for his service. Thank you, Kurt.
Hello, my name is Sadiq Muhammad, and this is my Veterans Day essay. My veteran is Harry Miller. He served in the 740th Tank Battalion in World War II. He joined the Army at just 15 years old, lying about his age because he wanted to join quite badly. He's a three-war veteran of World War II, Korea, and the Vietnam War. He's currently a war veteran, living out the rest of his days in peace and solitude. He served from 1944 to 1953. He also served in the Battle of the Bulge as well as Korea, World War II, and the Vietnam War. This is one of his stories. He was going across the Pacific to do some work and got a shot. After going across the Pacific, he was then instructed to head to Europe. He was then assigned to guard some ports with his battalion. The battalions were named after cigarette brands. His battalion was the 740th Tank Battalion, nicknamed Old Gold. I am not related to this veteran, but I do have a new sense of respect for veterans now. They aren't just people who served for their country, they're people who put their lives on the line to protect others. They didn't just serve their countries, they proudly defended them. We should all respect veterans for the things they did for us and how they kept us all safe.